Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to Vintage Mike Tales. Today's story is one of forbidden love, courage and survival, where passion collides with pain and hope rises out of abuse and heartbreak. Remember to treat your partner right and hold on to the love that defines you. Thank you for listening, and let's begin. Damien sat in his office, the view of Manhattan sprawling beneath him like a glittering empire he had conquered. 30 floors up. Glass windows framed the city as though it belonged to him, and in many ways it did. At 30 years old, Damien Hayes was one of the youngest and most successful businessmen in New York. His company was the kind of corporate beast journalists loved to praise and competitors hated to envy. Yet behind the polished surface, success tasted hollow. He swirled a glass of bourbon in his hand, the amber liquid catching the late afternoon sun. His assistant had long gone home, but Damien stayed behind, drowning not in deadlines but in silence. It was in quiet moments like these that the ghosts of his past crept back. He saw again the night his father packed a suitcase and walked out of their modest Ohio home. Damien had been only 8. He remembered his mother's trembling hands as she begged, "Don't do this, Richard. Please think of your son." And his father's cold reply, "I've thought enough. I can't live a lie anymore." The front door slammed shut, leaving Damien with the sound of his mother's muffled sobs. She never remarried. She worked 2 jobs, skipped meals to feed him, and carried the burden of raising a boy while hiding her own heartbreak. Damien built his empire for her, for the woman who never gave up on him. Yet even with all his wealth, he couldn't fill the void his father left. Love to Damien was complicated. He wanted it desperately but feared it was nothing more than a beautiful lie that eventually crumbled. That night an invitation sat unopened on his desk. The annual New Horizons charity gala. His company had sponsored the event, raising funds for shelters supporting abused women. Normally, he avoided such gatherings. They were full of fake smiles and forced handshakes. But something urged him to go. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and laughter. Damien wore a tailored black tuxedo, his tie perfectly knotted, his presence commanding. People greeted him with admiration, some with envy. But, as usual, he drifted through the room as if he were a guest in someone else's life. And then he saw her, Patricia. She wasn't the most flamboyant woman in the room. She wasn't loud or eager for attention like the others. But there was something magnetic about her presence. She stood near the corner, talking softly with another guest. Her skin was radiant against the deep emerald green dress she wore, her curls pinned elegantly, yet with a softness that framed her face. She looked mature, composed, but her eyes told a different story. They weren't the eyes of a carefree woman. They carried shadows, the kind of quiet sorrow only those who had suffered learned to hide. Damien's gaze lingered too long. He forced himself to look away, then back again. Something about her tugged at him, as if fate had just drawn a thin, invisible line between their hearts. When the speeches ended and music filled the room, Damien found himself walking toward her. He hadn't planned it. His feet moved on their own. "Enjoying the gala?" he asked, his voice smooth but casual. Patricia turned to him. For a moment, her guarded expression softened. "I suppose. It's a good cause." Her voice was warm, rich but restrained. She didn't gush over him like so many others did when they recognized his name. "You're Damien Hayes," she said matter-of-factly. He smiled faintly. "And you are—" "Patricia," she replied. Patricia Carter. The name settled into his chest like an echo he wanted to hear again. They spoke first about the charity, then about trivial things like music and books. But Damien found himself listening to her more than he usually did with anyone. She laughed softly at one of his remarks, and the sound struck him. It was beautiful but faint, as though laughter wasn't something she allowed herself often. At one point, as she reached for her glass, Damien noticed the faintest bruise near her wrist, half hidden by her sleeve. She quickly pulled her hand back. He didn't comment, but the sight lodged itself in his mind. Before the night ended, she excused herself politely. "It was nice meeting you, Mr. Hayes, Damien," he corrected gently. "Just Damien." Her lips curved in a small smile. "Then good night, Damien." And just like that she walked away, leaving him staring after her in a room suddenly too bright and too loud. The car ride home was silent. Marcus, her husband, kept his eyes on the road, his jaw clenched. He hadn't liked her talking to Damien. He hadn't liked her laughing. When they entered their house, the mask fell. "You think I didn't see you?" Marcus's voice cut through the stillness, smiling at him like some little... "Marcus, please," Patricia whispered, setting her clutch on the table. It was just conversation. He grabbed her wrist, the same one Damien had noticed. "Don't play games with me. I know men like him. Rich, entitled, think they can take whatever they want." His grip tightened. "And you'll stay away from him. Do you hear me?" Patricia nodded quickly, her heart pounding. "Yes, I hear you." He released her with a shove, muttering curses as he stalked upstairs. When the house finally grew quiet, Patricia sank onto the sofa, pressing her trembling hands against her face. For years she had endured Marcus's temper. To the world they were a respectable couple. He was successful in his own right. She was the devoted wife. But behind closed doors it was a different story. She had learned to survive by making herself small, by swallowing her pain. But tonight something felt different. The way Damien looked at her, it wasn't with possession or judgment. It was as though he saw her. And for the first time in years she felt alive in that gaze. Patricia hated herself for even thinking about another man. She was married. Marriage meant loyalty, sacrifice. But as she sat there in the dim light, tears slipping down her cheeks, she admitted to herself something she could never say out loud. "I wish I could feel that way again. I wish I could feel safe, loved, free." Damien lay awake in his penthouse, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. His mind replayed the gala, every detail of Patricia's face, the sadness in her eyes, the bruise on her wrist. He told himself to forget her. She was married. She was off limits. But something inside him rebelled. He had spent his life building walls to protect himself from disappointment, from betrayal. But Patricia had walked right past those defenses without even trying. He didn't just want her beauty. He wanted to know her pain, to take it from her, to give her the life she deserved. The irony wasn't lost on him. His father had been the man who tore apart another woman's marriage, and now here he was, lying awake because of a married woman. But deep down, Damien knew this wasn't lust. It wasn't the shallow desire he had felt before. This was something far more dangerous, far more consuming. And as the night stretched on, Damien realized the truth he couldn't deny. He had only just met her, but Patricia Carter was already under his skin. Patricia cried herself to sleep in a cold, loveless bed, wishing for freedom she didn't believe she could ever have. Across the city, Damien sat by his window, bourbon untouched, whispering to himself words he had never said about anyone before. She's different. She's worth everything. Fate had set their worlds on a collision course. Neither of them knew just how dangerous and beautiful that collision would become. The days after the gala were restless ones for Damien. He told himself to bury the memory of Patricia, to let her go as just another fleeting face in the endless stream of formal dinners and charity events. But her eyes haunted him, those deep, tired eyes that carried both resilience and sorrow. Every time he sat in a meeting, every time he signed another deal, she came back to him. He found himself wondering, was she okay? Did that bruise on her wrist heal? Was she safe in her own home? It was irrational. He barely knew her. But Damien was a man who trusted instinct, and something inside him refused to ignore what he'd seen. It happened a week later. Damien had agreed to visit a local women's shelter his company supported financially. Normally, his public relations team handled those appearances, but this time he insisted on going himself. When he arrived, the director of the shelter greeted him warmly, giving him a tour of the modest but safe facility. Children played in one corner, their laughter a bittersweet soundtrack in a place built from brokenness. And then he saw her. Patricia was there, helping organize donated clothes. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, her hair tied back, no glamour of the gala. Yet to Damien she had never looked more beautiful. She noticed him almost immediately. Her posture stiffened, her lips parting slightly in surprise. For a moment neither of them spoke. "Patricia," Damien said finally, his voice softer than he intended. "Mr. Hayes," she replied, her tone polite but guarded. "Damien," he corrected again, just as he had that night. Their eyes locked, and the air between them tightened, filled with unspoken words. The shelter director explained that Patricia was one of the volunteers. "She's been helping us for years," the woman said proudly. Damien looked back at Patricia, admiration in his gaze. She lowered her eyes as though trying to escape his attention. When the director left them momentarily, Damien seized the chance. "I didn't expect to see you here." Patricia hesitated, folding a shirt neatly before setting it down. I volunteer sometimes. It helps keep perspective. Her voice faltered slightly and Damien caught it, the weight of words unspoken. May I? He asked, gesturing to help with the clothes. She gave a reluctant smile, a trace of amusement in her eyes. I wouldn't have guessed you knew how to fold. I'm a quick learner, he replied, his hands moving clumsily at first, making her laugh quietly. The sound warmed him. It was small, cautious, but real. When her shift ended, Damien offered to walk her to her car. Patricia hesitated, but finally agreed. They walked slowly, the late afternoon sun painting the streets in gold. Why are you here, Damien? She asked, her tone not accusing but curious. Because I care about more than money, he answered honestly. And because... He paused, careful not to push too far. Because I wanted to see you again. Her steps faltered and she looked at him, startled. You shouldn't say that. Why not? It's the truth. Because I'm married, she whispered, as though the word itself were a chain around her neck. Damien nodded, his jaw tightening. I know, and I'm not here to make your life harder. They walked in silence for a while before Patricia finally said, You don't know me, Damien. Not yet, he replied, but I'd like to. At her car, she hesitated again. Against her better judgment, she heard herself say, There's a coffee shop nearby. If you're not too busy... They sat across from each other at a quiet corner table. The coffee shop buzzed with background chatter, but to Damien, the world had narrowed to just the two of them. Patricia stirred her tea slowly, her hands trembling slightly. Damien noticed but didn't comment. You seem different, she said softly. Different how? Most men with your status walk into a room like they own it. But you... She studied him, her eyes searching. You look like you're still looking for something. Her observation struck deep. Damien leaned back, letting out a low breath. Maybe I am. And you think you'll find it in me? She asked carefully, her tone somewhere between curiosity and fear. I don't know, Damien admitted. But I know that when I look at you, Patricia, I don't just see beauty. I see strength, I see pain you don't deserve, and I can't stop wanting to know you more. Her throat tightened. She looked down at her cup, fighting tears she refused to let fall in public. You shouldn't say things like that. Why? Because it makes me want to believe them, she whispered. By the time they left the cafe, a summer storm had rolled in. Rain poured heavily, drenching the streets. Patricia gasped as the downpour hit them, laughing despite herself as they ran under the nearest awning. Damien's suit clung to him, droplets streaming down his hair, but he didn't care. Patricia's laughter filled the small space, brighter now, less restrained. He looked at her, truly looked, and the world seemed to fade away. For a heartbeat, everything slowed, the patter of rain, the flickering streetlights, the sound of her breath mingling with his. Their eyes met. Damien stepped closer, his hand hovering near her cheek but not touching. Patricia, he murmured, his voice rough with longing. Her lips parted, and for a moment she didn't move away. The space between them narrowed until only inches remained. Then, with a sharp inhale, Patricia turned her head. I can't, she whispered, her voice breaking. Damien's hand dropped to his side. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, she interrupted, her tone trembling. And I wanted to let you, but I can't. I'm married. Her words were final, but her eyes betrayed her. They glistened with tears and unspoken yearning. Damien nodded slowly. I understand. The rain fell harder around them, but the silence between them was heavier still. That night, Patricia came home soaked from the rain. Marcus noticed immediately. Where were you? He demanded, volunteering. Then I got caught in the storm, she explained, carefully hanging her coat. Marcus narrowed his eyes, volunteering again. Yes. He stepped closer, his tone sharp. Who were you with? No one, she lied quickly, her stomach twisting. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, before grabbing her chin roughly, forcing her to meet his gaze. Don't ever lie to me, Patricia. I'll know. Her pulse raced, but she nodded. I'm not lying. He released her, muttering curses as he walked away. But Patricia knew. He was watching her more closely now. Any slip could cost her. Damien couldn't sleep that night. He paced his penthouse, the storm still raging outside. He kept seeing Patricia's face in the rain, the way she had almost let him kiss her. He hated himself for wanting her. He hated the irony, that he might become the kind of man his father was, the kind who destroyed marriages. But deep down he knew this was different. Patricia's marriage wasn't built on love. It was built on control, on fear. She wasn't living, she was surviving. And Damien couldn't stop thinking, what if I could give her more? What if I could give her freedom? He sat by the window, rain streaking the glass, and whispered into the night. I think I'm in love with her. In her darkened bedroom, Patricia lay beside Marcus's sleeping form. The storm outside echoed the turmoil inside her. She pressed her hand to her lips, remembering how close Damien had been, how safe she had felt in his presence. Tears spilled silently. She hated herself for it, hated the part of her that longed for Damien's touch, but she couldn't deny the truth anymore. He made her feel something she thought was lost forever. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to whisper into the silence, God help me. I think I'm falling for him. Two souls bound by pain and longing stood on the edge of something dangerous. Patricia's heart battled between duty and desire. Damien's heart burned with love he could no longer ignore. Neither of them realized just how high the stakes would become, nor how deep the forbidden sparks would ignite. Patricia woke to the sound of Marcus slamming a door downstairs. Her chest tightened instantly, fear settling into her bones the way it always did when he was angry. It didn't matter if she had done something wrong or not. Marcus could turn anything into a crime. She sat up in bed, wrapping her robe around her body, listening to his heavy footsteps. When he stormed into the room, his eyes were bloodshot. Where were you yesterday afternoon? I told you, Patricia answered softly, keeping her voice calm, careful. I was at the shelter. The shelter, again. He sneered, pacing the floor. Don't think I don't know what's going on. You think I don't see the way you've been. Smiling more, you've got a glow about you. And it sure as hell isn't because of me. Her stomach dropped. Marcus stopped pacing, his face hardening. Who is he? There's no one, Marcus. His hand lashed out before she could finish. The slap stung, her head whipping to the side. She held back the cry that wanted to escape. She had learned long ago that tears only made him angrier. He leaned close, his voice low and venomous. You're mine. Don't forget it. When he left, Patricia sank to the floor, clutching her cheek. She had endured years of this, but something inside her was shifting. Damien's words echoed in her mind. You don't deserve this pain. For the first time, she began to believe it. Meanwhile, Damien was pacing his office, unable to focus on the endless stack of documents. His mind was elsewhere, always with Patricia. He hadn't heard from her since the storm. The memory of their almost kiss consumed him. Every instinct in him wanted to see her, to protect her, to take her away from the life that was breaking her spirit. Finally, he grabbed his phone and called the shelter. This is Damien Hayes. Is Patricia Carter volunteering today? The voice on the other end confirmed she was. Relief flooded him. Within the hour, Damien's car pulled up outside the modest building. He told himself he was only there to check on the shelter, but he knew better. He was there for her. Inside, he found Patricia folding blankets in the storage room. She froze when she saw him, her lips parting in surprise. Damien, she whispered. He shut the door quietly behind him. I had to see you. Why? Her voice trembled. Because I can't stop worrying about you, he admitted, his eyes searching hers. Patricia looked away, clutching a blanket to her chest. You shouldn't be here. If Marcus ever found out— Patricia, Damien interrupted gently, stepping closer. What is he doing to you? Her breath hitched. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint noises of the shelter outside. Finally, she whispered, He hurts me. Damien's chest tightened painfully. I knew it, he said under his breath. Damn it, Patricia. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. Without thinking, Damien reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Instead, she gripped him tightly, as if his touch was the only thing anchoring her. Then don't, he said firmly. You don't have to live like this. I'll help you. I'll protect you. Her tears spilled over. You don't know what you're saying, Marcus. He'll never let me go. He'll ruin me if I try. Then let him try, Damien said fiercely. He'll have to go through me first. Patricia looked at him, her heart pounding. And in his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in a long time, hope. The weight of the moment pressed down on them. Patricia's tears slid down her cheeks as Damien reached up.